There's a man everyone in the kingdom calls uncontrollable, a sword master who locked himself away for years. Count Perdium's so-called useless oldest son, Ghislain Perdium. We open with a scene of pure chaos, a man beaten to the ground, gasping for air, staring at Ghislain in disbelief. How the hell did I lose to you? Our boy Ghislain just smirks and says, simple. I spent a lot of money to make this change. Then the camera pans out, and boom. Standing before the fallen man is Ghislain himself, towering with a massive axe in hand. The guy on the ground still can't believe it. He's muttering about how trash like Ghislain shouldn't have known his plans. But Ghislain? He cuts him off coldly. Oh, I knew everything. Your spies, your reinforcements, the little rat who sent them. I knew it all from the start. The beaten man's world shatters. He starts screaming nonsense until Ghislain, tired of the noise, kicks him in the face to shut him up. Then he declares, you can keep coming for me, but I'll win next time, and the time after that. Every damn time. You know why? Because I've got all the plans. The scene goes back to 1 year earlier, Lithania Kingdom, near the Perdium estate. Ghislain wakes up suddenly, heart pounding. He looks around and mutters, wait, what the hell just happened? Why am I still alive? Because the last thing he remembers was dying. We cut to that moment. Ghislain, standing in the middle of a bloody duel, was barely able to stand. In front of him is Aiden, one of the continent's top 7 noble knights, and a complete smug bastard. Any last words? Aiden asks. Ghislain just laughs bitterly. None. Just a shame I couldn't finish my revenge. Then Aiden smirks. So you're the oldest son of the fallen Perdium house. Figures. Ghislain freezes. How do you know that? You're from a different kingdom. Aiden shrugs. Because I worked my ass off to find you. I was one of the people who helped the Delphine household bring your family down. That hits hard. Ghislain's eyes widen. There were others behind Duke Delphine's betrayal. But before he can react, Aiden raises his sword. No point in talking. You'll be dead soon anyway. Aiden swings, and decapitates him in one clean motion. But then, Ghislain blinks. His head still on his shoulders. He looks around. Wait, is he hallucinating? Or is he somehow younger? That's when he hears a familiar voice. Young Master Ghislain! Are you awake? It's Ricardo, one of Perdium's soldiers. Ghislain's instincts kick in. He grabs Ricardo, a blade at his throat. Answer me truthfully, and I'll let you live. Ricardo's face says it all. What the hell, man? He sighs and asks. Are we crossing the line again? Ghislain, confused as hell, lets go and stares. Ricardo then adds, I'm talking about your tantrum earlier, demanding to lead the raid against the orcs. Ghislain blinks. What orcs? Now Ricardo thinks he's lost it. But he just says, come on, get ready. Everyone's waiting. We're heading to the Perdium estate. That name hits Ghislain like a lightning bolt. Wait. Perdium? As in the Perdium estate? Next thing he knows, they're standing in front of it, whole, peaceful, untouched. Ghislain's eyes widen. Because in his memory, this place was burned to ashes. Ricardo laughs nervously. What's with you today, young master? Calling your own house fallen? If the Count hears that, you will be punished. Ghislain pinches his cheek, and it hurts. So this isn't a dream. Which means, he's gone back in time. He looks at his younger reflection, no scars, no battle-worn face. Everything's like it used to be. Back then, his immaturity, his stupid decisions drove everyone away. Back before he ran off and became a mercenary, the so-called Mercenary King, one of the 7 strongest men on the continent. He remembers coming home years later to make amends, only to find his home destroyed, his family gone. But now, they're all still here. For the first time in forever, Ghislain feels hope. He wants to laugh, maybe even sing. But he knows better, this isn't the time to celebrate. Because now, there is something more important, the upcoming orc raid. Ghislain remembered. That raid, in his past life, turned into a massacre. They thought there were only 3 orcs. Turns out, there were over 20. And because of his arrogance, everyone died. Not this time. He clenches his fist. If those same orcs appear again, he's going to turn the tables. Suddenly, a loud crash breaks the calm. The watchtower collapses nearby. The orcs! They're here! A soldier shouts. Panic spreads like wildfire. Orcs charge out of the forest, smashing through the front line. Men scream, shields shatter, chaos everywhere. But then a voice cuts through the noise. Everyone, get in formation! Don't panic! It's Skovin, the raid squad's commander. He's doing his best to keep control, until a massive orc swings an axe at him from behind. He doesn't even see it coming. But Ghislain does. He dashes forward, shoving Skovin out of the way just in time. The axe slams into the ground, and Ghislain's blade flashes. In one clean motion, he cuts off the orc's arm. Everyone freezes. Did the useless son just do that? The orc roars, then collapses. Ghislain exhales. Still can't use mana yet. Even without magic, he's still terrifying. He turns to the stunned commander and says, calm but firm. Hand over command. I'll take it from here. Skovin's eyes narrowed. The commander couldn't believe what he'd just heard. Ghislain Perdium, the so-called reckless noble, had just asked to take command of the entire squad. Scovin clenched his jaw. This bastard might have skill, but this wasn't some sparring match, so he refused. Soldiers' lives were at stake. Ghislain didn't argue. He just gave a faint nod, thinking that honestly, he'd probably do the same if some inexperienced fool demanded leadership from him. Then, before the tension could fade, an orc roared and charged straight at him. Scovin shouted, "Ghislain, fall back!" But our boy didn't move. Instead, he drew his sword and threw it. The commander instinctively ducked. What the hell? Only to hear a heavy thud behind him. He turned around and froze. Ghislain's blade was buried deep in the orc's skull. One hit. Right in the weak spot. The monster collapsed, lifeless. Scovin could barely believe his eyes. How did you? Ghislain, unfazed, addressed the commander, stating that the key to victory on the battlefield was morale. He gestured at the soldiers, their hands trembling, their faces pale. Fear kills faster than any blade. Then he charged straight into the orc horde. Grabbing his sword from the corpse, Ghislain launched himself into the fight, slicing open one orc's gut, driving his blade through another's skull, cutting through arms, heads, everything in his path. Even Scovin, a skilled mana user, couldn't match what he was seeing. Ghislain wasn't using mana, not a single spark. Every movement was pure technique and instinct, the kind only a true sword master could pull off. But as the fight dragged on, Scovin noticed his young master slowing down, smaller movements, shorter breaths. Still, Ghislain taunted the orcs, yelling, "Come on, you bastards! You call this a warrior race? I'm not even warmed up yet." Ricardo, watching from the sidelines, blinked. Commander? Is he running away? Sure enough, Ghislain was sprinting, orcs chasing close behind. But the direction made Scovin's stomach drop. The cliff. Then it clicked. He shouted an order. "Form a shield wall! Move!" At the edge of the cliff, Ghislain fought desperately, holding off the orcs with every last ounce of strength. His breathing was ragged, his vision blurred, but he trusted Scovin to understand. And the commander did. Scovin and his men charged, shields up, spears out, a solid wall of steel advancing on the orcs. Ghislain grinned. Perfect timing. He looked over his shoulder and leapt off the cliff. "Push them!" Scovin roared. The soldiers surged forward, ramming their spears into the orcs, forcing them back. One by one, the beasts tumbled off the edge, their roars fading into the abyss below. When the dust settled, silence filled the air. They'd done it. The orcs were gone. Scovin ran to the cliff, shouting, "Ghislain!" A faint voice answered. He looked down. There he was, clinging to the cliffside, his sword jammed into the rock. Scovin reached out his hand. "Grab it!" Ghislain tried. But his strength was gone. His hand slipped, and he fell. The soldiers shouted in horror as their young master vanished into the fog below. Then darkness. A voice called out. Soft. Familiar. "Elena!" Memories flashed, his sister's tears, her anger, her love. Her voice begging him not to leave her behind. He opened his eyes. A dim room. A wet cloth on his forehead. He was alive. Somehow, the soldiers had saved him. As he tried to sit up, pain shot through his body. He groaned, and that's when the door opened. A woman with white hair entered, carrying a bucket. "Master Ghislain, you're awake!" Belinda, his maid, his tutor, and the one person who never left his side. Without thinking, Ghislain stood up and pulled her into a hug. Belinda froze. "And master, did I do something wrong?" He shook his head, voice trembling. "No, I'm just glad you're here." She blinked, confused. "Of course I am. I see you every day." But Ghislain knew better. In his last life, after the Perdium family's downfall, Belinda was gone. He never saw her again. Trying to keep calm, he told her something unbelievable. "Belinda, listen carefully. Something terrible is coming. I've died once before." She stared, then burst out laughing. "You must still be dizzy from the battle, master." He sighed. She didn't believe him. So she changed the subject. "If you'd been hurt worse, you wouldn't be able to take Elena to the festival next week." That name made Ghislain pause. Elena. His sister. Belinda smiled softly. "She's been waiting all year for it. Maybe it's time you two make up." Ghislain glanced at a small photo of them together, and his eyes darkened. Next week. That date was burned into his memory, because that festival was the day everything went to hell. While lost in thought, someone entered the room. Ghislain was shocked to see Elena, who had come to visit him. Without a moment's hesitation, our boy Ghislain bolts forward and, bam, wraps his little sister Elena in a sudden hug. The poor girl freezes like she's seen a ghost. Even Belinda's jaw nearly hits the floor. Ghislain just says he missed her. Heartfelt, right? Yeah, except Elena shoves him off immediately, brushing herself off like he just threw dirt on her. Ghislain stands there, stunned, not by her words, but by her strength. Since when was his little sister this strong? Turns out, Elena's only there because Belinda begged her to visit. She narrows her eyes and demands, "What game are you playing, brother? You think this fixes everything?" Ghislain, clueless, blinks. "What are you even talking about?" Then she drops the hammer. She reminds him of all the times he told her to leave him alone, that even her breathing disgusted him. And that hits Ghislain like a blade to the chest. Because in his past life, he was that kind of brother, a bitter, arrogant fool. For the first time ever, he apologizes. Belinda nearly drops dead in shock. Ghislain Perdium, apologizing? The world must be ending. Elena frowns. "Did you hit your head or something? I heard an orc smack you during that raid." Ghislain groans. "Not this again. I was the one who beat the orcs." And right as he finishes bragging, pain shoots through him. Bam, he collapses. Elena just smirks. Sure, big brother. You beat the orcs all right." She and Belinda can't stop laughing as Ghislain twitches on the floor. But deep down, seeing them laugh warms his heart. After everything, this felt right. Then his smile fades. The memory of Elena's death in his past life crashes in, her body torn apart, found near the slums. It had been the last time he ever saw her alive. Not again, he thinks. Not this time. A knock interrupts his thoughts. 2 armored men step in, Jamal and Philip, Elena's bodyguards. They're there to escort her. Apparently, the maids asked Elena to oversee festival prep. Ghislain blinks. "Wait, why would the maids ask you for that?" Belinda rolls her eyes. "Because someone's been too busy rotting in his room to notice Perdium's worker shortage." Ghislain's jaw tightens. She's right. His old self never cared. When Elena turns to leave, he blurts out, "Let me help." Both girls freeze. Elena squints. "Yeah, he's definitely concussed." In town, workers hustle around. Elena's barking orders, Ghislain trailing behind her like a lost puppy. She groans. "You're scaring them. Just stand somewhere else." But as she talks, he can't help staring. The last time he saw her, she'd been found dead. And now, he vows, not this time. He'll learn every inch of this castle, every alley, every threat that could touch her. Suddenly, an old voice calls out, "My lord!" It's Fergus, an old loyal soldier. The man's sweating bullets, relieved to see Ghislain alive. He calls himself a lowly servant. But to Ghislain, this man's loyalty is priceless. Elena jokes to Fergus. "Mind escorting my weird brother back to his room? He's not, well." Fergus nods instantly, leaving Ghislain fuming. His hooligan rep really is haunting him. But instead of giving up, he tells Fergus to take him to the abandoned training field. The old soldier hesitates. "Training, my lord?" Ghislain's eyes sharpen. "Yeah. It's time I stopped wasting my life." To his surprise, the field's immaculate, maintained, polished, waiting for him. Fergus admits he kept it ready all these years, hoping Ghislain would return. Ghislain smiles faintly. "You were right to believe in me. I'm gonna live a long life this time." "Dying sucks." Fergus flinches. "You speak like someone who's done it before." Ghislain just chuckles. "Maybe I have." When Fergus leaves, Ghislain sits cross-legged, closing his eyes. It's time to start again, from nothing. Mana. The breath of the world. Most people struggle to even feel it. But for Ghislain, it's instinct. Like reaching out and pulling the air itself into his veins. He forms 1 core, then 2, and then, pain hits. Blood drips from his nose as he pushes for a 3rd. He collapses, trembling. In his past life, he could form 5. Damn it. He's weaker now. But he's still alive. He grits his teeth. "I'll master this again. I'll fix everything. And when I'm ready. Aiden, Delphine, I'm coming for you bastards." The night of the festival. Ghislain shows up in full gear, shocking everyone. Elena stares. You came to the festival?" He shrugs. "As heir of Perdium, it's my duty." She frowns. "You've really changed. People are saying you've been training nonstop." He gives a weak grin. "Just doing what I should have done long ago." For once, Elena smiles. "You know, it feels like I have my brother back." As they walk, Ghislain spots Belinda giving orders to Elena's guards, Jamal and Philip, telling them to watch him carefully. Irony's got jokes. He spends the day quietly observing, waiting. But nothing strange happens. Elena relaxes, chatting with her brother. Then, a soldier approaches, saying there are new events nearby. He invites Elena to join him. She beams, grabs his hand, ready to go. And in that instant, Ghislain freezes. So, they were the very ones who betrayed her. Our boy Ghislain couldn't believe what he was seeing. Jamal and Philip, the knights who'd once sworn their lives to protect Elena, standing there like traitors. These bastards had fought and bled for his sister since she was a kid. How the hell did it come to this? Jamal smiles like nothing's wrong. Welcome, my lady. Elena blinks, confused. The so-called event they came for is just an empty, overgrown dump. She laughs nervously. You're kidding, right? You're performing here? Jamal stammers something about delayed preparations, but the sweat on his brow says otherwise. While they talk, Ghislaine's eyes dart around. Every escape path's been blocked. This isn't a stage. It's a damn trap. Elena tugs at his arm. Let's go. But Jamal insists they stay, just for a performance. Elena crosses her arms. Yeah, no thanks. Ghislaine tries to lighten the tension. Sis, do you work out or something? You're scary strong. Before she can reply, Philip steps out, face dark, tone colder than steel. Wait, my lady. Elena's patience snaps. What's wrong with you two? You're acting weird. Jamal sighs, guilt flickering for half a second. Forgive us, but a request has been made. 3 men appear. 2 in black, the leader in a blue coat, Frank. The guy oozes danger. Frank smirks. Well done, gentlemen. You've delivered your mistress. Jamal bows, proud of his betrayal, as promised. Our deal is done. Then Frank notices Ghislaine and frowns. I didn't ask for him. Elena clutches her brother's arm, fear rising. Jamal laughs. He followed us on his own. Guess he's eager for the grave. Ghislaine glares. Do you really think you can run after this? Jamal scoffs. Run? My friend, we're leaving this rotten county. I'm done dying for peasants and raids. Then die as one. In a flash, slash. Jamal's chest bursts open. He collapses, armor clattering as his lifeblood stains the dirt. Ghislaine wipes his blade clean. Those who left never sold out their own. He turns to Philip. Tell me I'm wrong. Philip curses Jamal's corpse. Idiot. Dying to a fraud like you. Before he even draws, thunk. Ghislaine's sword flies, piercing his skull. 2 traitors. 2 corpses. The assassins freeze. One whispers. That's Ghislaine Perdium? The useless noble? Frank narrows his eyes. No training, no battlefield experience, and yet. He watches Ghislaine pull mana through his veins like a seasoned killer. He's something else. Elena trembles. Brother, what's happening? Ghislaine meets her eyes, then chops her neck lightly. She collapses, unconscious. Rest now, Elena. Frank exhales smoke from his pipe. Well, that saves us the trouble. I was planning to kill those 2 traitors myself. He steps forward. Tell me, were you hiding this power all along? Ghislaine yanks his sword free from Philip's corpse. Why do you care? Frank's mana flares, heavy, suffocating. Ghislaine immediately senses it. This one's no ordinary thug. Who ordered this? Ghislaine demands. Frank chuckles. Why bother asking? Dead men don't need answers. Ghislaine's expression turns cold. Then I'll make the truth scream out of you. Frank waves his hand. Capture him alive. Break every bone. Let's hear him scream. The 2 men rush in. Ghislaine flicks a small firecracker. Pop. The first one hesitates, just long enough for Ghislaine to appear beside him. Stab. 1 down. The second scoffs. Cheap tricks. And swings. Ghislaine twists his blade behind his back, parries, then slices upward. Clean decapitation. Frank lunges from the smoke, his sword aimed at Ghislaine's back. But Ghislaine blocks it, with a second sword. Frank's eyes widen. Impossible! Ghislaine shoves his blade down, pivots, and slices across Frank's neck, sending his pipe flying. But instead of falling, Frank grins. His wound glows faintly, reinforced by mana. Impressive. Frank growls, rubbing his neck. If not for that, I'd be dead. Ghislaine tightens his grip. This man's no pushover. Frank smirks. Let's end this, boy. Show me where that strange swordplay came from. The air hums with mana. With a menacing smile, he promised that Ghislaine would meet his end here. Shoving Ghislaine backward, Frank mocked his meager mana, confidently assuring him of defeat. Frank's grin fades the moment Ghislaine smiles back. Something about that calm expression feels wrong, too calm for a man supposedly on the losing end. Before Frank can blink, Ghislaine parries his blade, throws off his balance, and plants a brutal kick right in his face. Frank stumbles back, wipes the blood from his lips, and smirks. Nice hit, but that's pointless against mana reinforcement. Seconds later, Frank coughs up blood and drops to his knees, eyes wide with disbelief. His mana shield, shattered. Ghislaine walks forward, calm as death itself, muttering that he'd always suspected someone behind his sister's assassination, but never expected this. Then it happens. His aura surges, his third core ignites, the air ripples, Ghislaine vanishes from sight, reappearing right in front of Frank. Each strike comes faster, heavier, like a storm of blades. Frank barely blocks before his sword splinters apart. The final blow sends him crashing against the wall, Ghislaine's blade buried deep in his chest. Pinned there, choking on pain, Frank refuses to speak. So Ghislaine tightens his grip, voice low and sharp. Who sent you? Frank laughs, pulls a hidden dagger, planned to take Ghislaine's sister with him. Big mistake. Then glowing threads whips out, binding his wrist mid-swing. Ghislaine's controlling the mana threads. The assassin's face twists in shock. When the hell did you? Ghislaine leans close, voice icy. If you want mercy, talk. When Frank hesitates, Ghislaine drives the sword deeper. You're tough. You can heal. But once I shatter your mana core, no one's saving you. Frank's eyes go wide as the blade hums with power. You're insane. You'll blow us both up. Ghislaine just smiles. Only amateurs lose control. Frank finally breaks. It was Count Desmond, he screams. He wanted a war between Perdium and Degard. Ghislaine freezes. Desmond? That bastard shouldn't even be involved. The strings lead higher, straight to Duke Delphine. Rage flashes through him. He demands to know if Desmond was behind his sister's attack. Frank confirms it with a bloody grin. Ghislaine doesn't hesitate, he finishes it. Frank wheezes. You promised to put the sword away. Ghislaine smirks. Funny. You never kept your promises either. The assassin starts laughing, even as blood drips from his lips. Kill me, it won't matter. Perdium's already doomed. Who would ever trust you, Ghislaine? Ghislaine slams his head into the wall. You're wrong. This time, everything changes. His sword glows bright, then silence. A blinding burst erupts, echoing like fireworks in the night sky. When the light fades, Frank's body hits the ground. Ghislaine staggers, blood dripping from his mouth. Detonating 3 cores used to be easy. He mutters, coughing. Guess I'm getting rusty. But he's not done yet. Inside a nearby shack, he finds 2 corpses, one of the daggered heir and his knight. In his past life, there had been 3. Now, he understands, their deaths were staged to frame his sister. Without hesitation, he sets the place ablaze. Flames consume the evidence as he lifts his unconscious sister into his arms. Walking through the inferno, Ghislaine swears under his breath, they won't win this time, and as the smoke rises, a shadowed figure watches from the tree-line, then slips away into the dark. The scene shifts to a dimly lit chamber, a round table filled with anxious, sharp-eyed men. The air is thick with tension as one trembling spy delivers the news. The assassination failed. The council members erupt in disbelief. Failed? How the hell could Frank and 2 knights fail a simple hit job? The spy stammers, his voice shaking. It was Ghislaine Perdium. The room falls silent. Then laughter erupts, bitter and mocking. Ghislaine? That useless bastard of the north? Don't insult our intelligence. But the spy insists. No, my lords, he's not the same man anymore. The Ghislaine I saw fought like a monster. That wipes the smirks clean off their faces. The council leans forward, uneasy. The spy continues, desperate to defend his life. Our plans to eliminate the Degard family remain intact. I only need another chance. I swear I can fix this. Another chance? One noble sneers. You can't even gather intel on a single man. The argument stops when a cold voice cuts through the noise. From the end of the table, a man on a throne speaks. That's enough. Let him talk. The spy drops to one knee. My lord, I can eliminate Ghislaine through a duel. The council murmurs in confusion. A duel? With who? The spy smiles faintly. Cain Lois. That name alone silences the room. Cain, the northern prodigy, famed for raw, brutal swordsmanship. The man who fought with sheer strength alone. And more importantly, Ghislaine's own cousin. The shadowed man on the throne narrows his eyes. If you fail again, you won't be asking for another chance, and the scene shifts to the Perdium training hall. Fergus, his old steward, walks in. Young master, it's time for your meal. A blur flashes. The sword shoots across the room, nearly cutting him. Ghislaine reels it back with a glowing thread tied to his fingers. Fergus freezes stunned. What was that? Mana thread? Ghislaine replies, eyes calm. A way to control mana like a string. Fergus stares, awestruck. I've never seen such a technique. Then, noticing the man still standing awkwardly, he asks. What is it? Something on your mind? Fergus bows low. I want to thank you, young master. For saving Elena. Ghislaine blinks, momentarily caught off guard. I just did what I had to. Cut to the next day. The festival, cancelled. Elena vents her frustration in the castle hall. No one believes me, brother. You saved me, and yet they call you a liar. Ghislaine waves her off. It doesn't matter. Belinda overhears, arms crossed, irritation written all over her face. Those bastards Jamal and Philip. I knew they were perverts. Ghislaine exhales in quiet relief. For now, at least, Elena is safe. But peace never lasts long in the north. He knows their enemies will strike again, and next time, he won't be able to stop them alone. That's when he makes up his mind. He needs his own army. Before he can plan further, a maid wheels in a food cart. She sets a dish before him, just one lonely slice of bread. Ghislain frowns. And where's dessert? Belinda reply. Desert? You know how our situation is. Before he can answer, shouting erupts outside. Ghislain rushes to the window, merchants, farmers, even guards, all gathered at the castle gates, shouting for compensation. A bearded merchant shout. You cancelled the festival. Who'll pay for our losses? Belinda explains grimly. The festival was the backbone of our economy. This year's cancellation ruined hundreds of traders. The county's broke. Ghislain feels a chill. Broke. He turns to Fergus. Send the soldiers. Calm the crowd. Fergus lowers his head. There are no soldiers left, my lord. Most were sent to rebuild the forest outpost after the orc attack. Ghislain thinks, monsters on one side, barbarians on the other. And now, rebellion in his own walls. Perdium is a sinking ship. He pulls Belinda aside, voice low but sharp. You handle my finances. Use whatever I have left to pay the merchants. Belinda blinks. Young master. You don't have anything left. Ghislain freezes. Belinda replied. Your father cut off your allowances months ago. A moment later, Ghislain sits alone and thinks, great. The reincarnated genius is broke. No army, no funds, no allies. As he stares out the window, thinking about how fragile Perdium has become, the door bursts open. Ricardo storms in, gasping for air. Lord Ghislain! It's Cain. He wants to see you. Ghislain's eyes narrow. That name again. Cut to a nearby tavern. Scoven, one of Perdium's knights. A single hit from his opponent had shattered his armor and sent him sprawling. Ghislain arrives just in time to see him fall. Scoven groans. And my lord, forgive me. Ghislain's jaw tightens as he looks at the man standing over the fallen knight. Cain Loges, his cousin? Grinning from ear to ear, eyes blazing with confidence. Standing before Ghislain was a hulking figure, Cain Loges, heir of the Loges county. The bastard was hard to miss. Loud, smug, and towering like he owned the place. Ghislain recognized him instantly, his cousin, and lifelong pain in the ass. Once a friend, now a rival. As Cain stomped down the stairs, Ghislain turned to Ricardo. What the hell is going on here? Ricardo sighed, rubbing his temple. He and Scoven had come to investigate a disturbance, only to bump into Cain and his escort knight. Cain had heard rumors, crazy ones, about Ghislain taking down an orc barehanded and beating traitor knights solo. When Scoven tried to explain, Cain had grabbed his jaw and snarled. So you're lying to the heir of Lois County, huh? And that was how it happened. Right now, Cain demands to know the truth because he isn't buying it, and claims he was just giving a commander a wake-up call. Then he turned to Ghislain, eyes burning with arrogance. All this nonsense started because of you. If you hadn't lied, none of this would have happened. Ghislain just stared back, unfazed. He'd seen this before. Every visit, Cain strutted around Perdium, throwing his weight like he was some royal gift to the world. People praised his confidence, but to Ghislain, it was just privilege wrapped in arrogance. And yet, instead of anger, Ghislain smiled. Cain blinked. What the hell are you smiling at? He hadn't expected that. Normally, Ghislain would have snapped. But not this time. The scene shifts to a few days ago, in the Loges estate. A man cloaked in shadows, a spy, approaches Cain with an offer. He whispers, Kill Ghislain Perdium. The esteemed one will reward your family. Cain's eyes widen. Kill my cousin? That's madness. But the spy's grin widens. We'll stage it as a duel. An unfortunate accident between heirs. He promises to disguise himself as an escort knight and orchestrate everything. Cain laughs, amused and tempted. So I just get to erase my cousin and make it look honorable? Damn, talk about opportunity. And so the plot is set. Cain leans back on the stairs, smirking. So, cousin, where's the fun? Bring me what you've prepared. Ghislain raises a brow. What are you talking about? Cain waves him off. The festival's ruined, right? Let's liven it up, some drinks, some women. You know how we roll. He grins darkly. Or am I wrong? Ghislain exhales, realizing exactly what he means. This was the same crap as always. Back then, Ghislain had been forced to pay for Cain's endless indulgence, booze, women, the works, just to avoid getting beaten. Those visits had drained his wallet dry. Now it all made sense, even Belinda's reminder that his father cut him off for reckless spending. But this time, Ghislain wasn't the same fool. He smiled again, this time with a plan. Cain, he said evenly, I'll bring what you asked for. But first, there's a debt to settle. The spy froze. That tone, cold, calm, dangerous. Kane frowned. What the hell are you talking about? Ghislain tilted his head. Every party, every drink, every woman, all paid with my gold. So you owe me. Let's say, 1,000 gold should cover it. Kane's jaw dropped. 1,000? You've lost it, cousin. That was a gift, a token of friendship. Ghislain chuckled. Friendship? You beat me up and called it bonding. He stepped closer, smirking. Pay up, or I'll collect with interest. The tavern went silent. Eyes wide, jaws dropped. No one had ever talked to Kane like that. Kane stood slowly, his shadow towering over Ghislain. You've got guts, cousin. Must be because I've been too lenient. He cracked his knuckles. Let's fix that. In one swift motion, Kane swung. Ghislain sidestepped effortlessly, his coat barely brushing the wind. The entire tavern froze. Kane growled and threw another punch, aiming for Ghislain's head. This time, Ghislain ducked low and bam, struck his ribs. Kane gasped, staggering back. Ghislain followed with a punch to the head. Kane blocked it, smirking like he just turned the tables, but instantly screamed as pain exploded through his arm. He dropped to one knee, clutching it in shock. The spy rushed over. My lord! Are you all right? Ghislain crossed his arms. Stop whining. You blocked it, didn't you? Around them, whispers spread like wildfire. But then Kane leaned toward the spy and muttered, Was my acting convincing? The spy grinned. Perfect. Everyone saw him attack first. Kane rose, feigning fury. He pulled out a blue glove, the noble symbol of a duel. Ghislain Perdium! He roared. You've disgraced nobility! You attacked without cause! Before he could finish, Ghislain smirked, and threw his glove straight into Kane's face. I challenge you, Kane Loges! Ghislain declared. You insulted me as an heir, and you assaulted my knight. You've soiled the dignity of nobility. Deny it if you dare. Kane froze for half a second, then laughed coldly. You fool! You just signed your death warrant. He unsheathed his sword, eyes burning. If it's a duel you want, I'll make sure you regret it, even if it costs me my life. Ghislain didn't flinch. Instead, he called out, Ricardo! The man snapped to attention. Why yes, my lord? Bring in the merchants outside the castle. Ghislain ordered. Ricardo hesitated. My lord, what? Ghislain's lips curved into a sly, almost unhinged grin. They'll want to see this. And by the time we're done, they'll make a fortune. The festival may have been cancelled, but Ghislain wasn't about to let the city rot in disappointment. His solution? A duel. Nothing rekindles merchant spirit and tourist gold like two nobles trying to kill each other in broad daylight. The scene shifts to a makeshift stage surrounded by a roaring crowd. At the center, Ghislain Perdium versus Kane Loges. Two cousins, one bloodline, and a whole lot of bad history. Merchants scrambled to reopen their stalls, hawking snacks and trinkets to the swelling audience. And of course, where there's blood, there's betting. A chubby merchant bellowed. Place your bets. Kane Loges for the win. And damn near everyone threw their gold on Kane. The guy's a walking mountain. Of course they expected Ghislain to get flattened. Kane smirked, resting his massive sword on the ground. So this is what you've done, cousin? Turned a sacred duel into a circus? He grinned darkly. Don't think I'll stop swinging, even if you beg. Ghislain didn't flinch. Enough people have gathered. Let's begin. Just then, the spy chimed in, pretending to play fair. Hold up. A bet can't start until both sides have wagers. The merchant laughed. Oh, no one's betting on him. The merchant then added. All right, new bet, how long will he last before getting crushed? The crowd roared. But then, put this on Ghislain Perdium. All heads turned. Scovin, bruised, limping, but proud, placed a heavy bag of gold on the table. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Then came Elena. She dropped an even bigger bag beside it. I'll bet on my brother. Even Ghislain blinked, caught off guard. Kane groaned. Enough of this. Start the damn duel already. Ghislain smiled faintly. Since I'm your elder cousin, it'd look strange if I attacked first. Kane scoffed. It's far too late for you to play big brother. Kane lunged forward, his heavy sword cleaving through the air. Ghislain blocked, barely. The sheer force sent tremors up his arm. Kane chuckled. What's wrong, cousin? Too weak to stand tall? He slammed his hilt into Ghislain's chest, shoving him back. He twisted his grip, grabbing the blade itself and swinging the hilt like a club. Ghislain blocked, but Kane caught him with the hilt, flinging him into the air. The crowd screamed. It looked like a killing blow. Belinda grabbed Elena's arm, panicked. Stop this before he gets killed! But Midair, Ghislain whispered. I wanted to go easy on you, cousin, but you've crossed the line. He landed, perfectly, mana surging through his legs. Then, like lightning, he charged. Cain barely had time to blink before Ghislain's blade tore across his stomach. The spy's eyes widened. Mana, in his legs? Ghislain stood tall, voice calm. Your swordsmanship is ignorant. You think strength makes you invincible. You've never fought someone who stopped fearing you. He raised his sword. Allow me to open your eyes. Cain roared and charged again, swinging wildly. Ghislain kicked the sword aside, sidestepped, and slashed down his cousin's shoulder, smooth, surgical, merciless. Before Cain could react, Ghislain pressed the blade under his foot, trapping it, then dragged a near-fatal cut across his neck. Blood trickled. The crowd froze. Then chaos erupted, cheers, disbelief, merchants screaming about refunds. Scoven grinned, pride shining through his bruises. Cain staggered, staring at the shallow cuts. He realized, Ghislain could have killed him. But didn't. What the hell are you? Cain gasped. Ghislain dropped his sword, the clatter echoing through the silence. The difference between us is too big, he said calmly. I don't need a blade. The audience went dead quiet. Cain's jaw tightened. What did you just say? Ghislain rolled up his sleeves, that calm smile never fading. I'll use this duel to teach you something, cousin. He declared that the lesson would be delivered with his bare knuckles. Ghislain, the so-called useless heir, just announced that he was gonna educate Cain, his hulking, smug cousin who'd been swinging his sword around like he owned the place. Cain blinked, baffled. Educate me? The hell was that supposed to mean? Ghislain, calm as ever, clarified, his swordsmanship was superior. In fact, so superior he'd give Cain a handicap. No blades. Just bare hands. And to make things even spicier? He doubled the bet, thousands more gold on the line. The crowd lost their damn minds. Gasps, whispers, even the spy in the corner was stunned, his smirk fading as realization hit. This wasn't arrogance. This was confidence. The dangerous kind. And one poor merchant screaming, "He's insane!" echoed across the square. The merchant announced the new terms, a bare-handed duel between the cousins. Bets were placed again, half the crowd thinking Ghislain had lost his mind, the other half betting that the useless son might just pull off a miracle. Cain scoffed, dropping his coat and raising his sword. If you want to die barehanded, he growled, so be it. He charged like a bull, blade gleaming, but Ghislain just sidestepped, barely moving. Cain swung again, a heavy, killing blow. Ghislain dropped low, rolled beneath it, and countered with a clean strike to Cain's thigh. Bam! Before Cain could blink, a second hit cracked against his jaw. The brute stumbled, eyes wide in disbelief. Cain hit the dirt, dazed. Infuriated, Cain roared and swung wildly, sword slashing through air, but Ghislain flowed between his attacks like water. In a blink, he twisted Cain's arm, locked it, and kneed him square in the ribs. The crack echoed across the stage. Blood sprayed. Cain coughed violently, barely staying conscious. His strikes came one after another, relentless and precise. By the time he stopped, Cain's face was a swollen mess. Grabbing him by the hair, Ghislain spoke coldly. Your father, Count Lowe's, once bled himself dry for hours. Out of loyalty. Out of friendship. But you? His grip tightened. You threw all that away. Those words hit harder than any punch. Cain's mind drifted, to years ago, when he'd yelled at his father for wasting resources on House Perdium. Why keep helping them when we can barely feed our own? He'd shouted. But his father's answer had been simple. Because Count Perdium is my friend. Cain's vision blurred, past and present colliding, until Ghislain's fist came flying toward him. He flinched, but the blow never came. Instead, Ghislain stopped inches from his face. That's enough, he said quietly, extending a hand. Cain, beaten and breathless, lowered his head. I concede. And just like that, the impossible happened. The crowd erupted, chanting Ghislain's name, losing their minds as their useless lord became a damn legend. Elena practically bounced with joy, while Belinda stood frozen, mouth open. Even the spy, furious and humiliated, stormed forward. You lost after a scratch, he barked at Cain. But Cain just muttered. It's over. I'm done. The spy's rage only grew, until Ghislain turned to him with that dangerous smirk. Oh, don't look so sour, he said, clapping the man's shoulder. You're buying drinks and meat for everyone here. The spy stammered. Wait, I never agreed. But Ghislain tightened his grip. You did when you lost. Don't worry, it's your contribution, not from the pot. Then, his voice dropped to a low, deadly whisper. Try to run, and I'll collect it myself. The next morning, Ghislain sat in his room, staring at a chest overflowing with gold, the reward of his victory. Enough to hire a small army. Enough to turn the tables. He smiled faintly. I won't get this chance again. But before he could plan his next move, Elena peeked in. So, brother, what are you gonna do with all that gold? She teased. Ghislain smirked. Why? You want some? She laughed, but before she could reply, Belinda chimed in, arms crossed. Oh, I already know, she said confidently. Lady Amelia's birthday is coming up, isn't it? You went through all that trouble just to buy her something fancy. Elena, surprised, questioned whether her brother was truly working so hard to impress his fiancée. Ghislain seemed startled, unaware of having a fiancée. Ghislain stared at his sister, dumbfounded. Wait, fiancé? He asked, dead serious. Belinda sighed and rolled her eyes. Oh, stop pretending, my lord. There's no need to fake ignorance just because you're embarrassed. Elena chimed in, grinning. We're talking about Lady Amelia Rayfold, remember? At the mention of that name, Ghislain's expression darkened. Amelia Rayfold, beautiful, kind, adored by her people. The perfect noblewoman. But to him? She was a spider. Elegant, deadly, and patient. Once celebrated as the jewel of Rayfold County, Amelia would later become infamous, the Witch of the North, whose rebellion would help bring Perdium to ruin. Ghislain's faint smile carried a venom of its own. When's father returning? He asked casually. In a week, Belinda replied. Good, he said, rising to his feet. That's more than enough time. I'll be paying Rayfold a visit. Belinda blinked. But it's not even her birthday yet. Why go now? Ghislain's grin sharpened. Because I'm not bringing a gift. I'm going to collect one. The sound of soft shoes on stone. A noblewoman, stunning, graceful, slipped them off and placed them before a poor girl trembling in disbelief. You deserve these more than I, Amelia said softly. I alone should walk barefoot upon this land. Her red eyes glowed like embers as she ordered her soldiers to hand out food and shelter to the starving. The crowd bowed in awe, praising her kindness. But behind that angelic smile was calculation. Later, in the garden of Rayfold Manor, Amelia reclined on a chair as a man knelt at her feet, her escort knight, Bernarf, polishing her shoes, cleaning her feet, silent and obedient. Petting a cat perched on the table, Amelia mused. Father always demanded absolute obedience. But people follow whoever keeps them warm and fed. Bernarf chuckled. Brilliant as always, my lady. With hearts like theirs, you'll win the succession for sure. Amelia's foot struck his face lightly. Flattery doesn't suit you, Bernarf. She leaned forward, her tone cool. Now, the duel. The Northern Swordsman. Any updates? Bernarf bowed. I refrained from joining, my lady. Drawing attention now could disrupt our plans. He lowered his head to kiss her foot. The time to reveal your claws hasn't come yet. Until then, my blade is yours. Amelia smiled thinly. Of course you are. I made you that way. Then she shifted tone. What of the merchants? Bernarf rose smoothly. All proceeding well. The Arxium Guild is buying up materials for the Beast Forest outpost, under Perdium's name. We've also diverted their annual support funds to us. And many of their soldiers are joining our ranks. Amelia nodded approvingly. Good. Keep the guild's operations ordinary. The last thing we need is suspicion before the web is complete. But before Bernarf could respond, a steward hurried into the garden. Bernarf snapped. Who gave you permission to interrupt? The steward didn't flinch. My lady, news from the gate. Lord Ghislain Perdium has come to visit. Amelia's eyes narrowed. Ghislain? Why? A moment later, inside the hall. Ghislain sat calmly at the table, wearing a rough coat, holding a single flower. When Amelia entered, he smiled warmly. Lady Amelia. It's been some time. She sat across from him, her tone sharp. You arrive unannounced, uninvited, and unescorted. Do you not understand etiquette? Ghislain chuckled. My apologies. I only came to bring an early birthday gift. He placed the flower before her. Beautiful, isn't it? Picked it up from a local merchant guild. The Arxium Guild, they do good work. I plan to buy more from them soon. Amelia's brow furrowed. What exactly are you implying? She stood. If that's all, I'll be taking my leave. But as she turned, Ghislain's voice hardened. Sit down. That tone, cold, commanding, froze her in place. The timid young man she once knew was gone. He lifted his teacup. I won't waste your time. I need gold, a lot of it. Amelia blinked, caught off guard. Gold? Does your father know of this? No, he said simply. And he doesn't need to. Just give it to me. Then, calmly, he poured his tea onto the floor. You never planned to marry me, did you? Her composure faltered, just for a second. Ghislaine continued, voice steady. It'd be quite the scandal if the world learned the truth about how the beloved Lady Amelia is secretly building an army. Amelia remains calm. A bold imagination, Lord Ghislaine. Ghislaine smiled faintly. Oh, don't worry. Your secret's safe, for now. But if I walk out of here empty-handed, well, who knows? Her expression turned icy. That will never happen. Bernarf. The knight entered, bowing stiffly, hand on his chest. Ghislaine's eyes narrowed. He remembered this man. Loyal, lethal. He turned back to Amelia. If you kill me here, you'll start a war. Can you handle that? Amelia's smirk returned. If an unruly guest barged in, made threats, and was cut down by my escort knight, I doubt anyone would question it. Kill him. Bernarf drew his sword. Ghislaine's expression hardened. The game was over, and now, it was time to fight. Ghislaine's hand slides to his sword hilt. His eyes narrow, he's ready for anything. But before he can even blink, Bernard flashes a grin. That's never a good sign. Then, clang, a sudden metallic noise cuts the air. From behind Ghislaine, a damn assassin bursts out of a knight's armor like a jack-in-the-box from hell. The blade shoots straight toward his chair. But our boy's faster. He leaps clear, the strike splitting air where he sat a heartbeat ago. Before the assassin can even pull his weapon free, Ghislaine twists midair and kicks the bastard square in the chest. Bam! The man sails right through the window like yesterday's trash. Amelia and Bernard just stare, frozen. And Ghislaine? He dusts himself off and glares at them. Really? He says, voice dripping with disbelief. That's your idea of hospitality? He grabs his sword, eyes cold. Without waiting for an answer, he charges. Steel meets steel as Bernard blocks the first swing, the clash ringing through the hall. Sparks scatter, tension flaring hotter by the second. Ghislaine's tone turns razor sharp. Tell me, have you all forgotten the principles of chivalry? Bernard smirks. Chivalry? He mocks. You were the one who came uninvited, upsetting my lady. Then he hooks Ghislaine's blade under his arm, locking it. But Ghislaine slips aside and leaps, delivering another fierce kick that knocks Bernard back several steps. The air hums between them now, mana thick, eyes locked. Bernard had heard rumors. They said Ghislaine Perdium was useless, a washed-up noble with a rusty sword. But the man standing before him? Not even close. From nearby, Amelia watches with growing irritation. Bernard! She snaps. Stop holding back. Bring me that man's head. Her voice cuts like ice. You are my sword, remember your place. Bernard exhales slowly, then raises his blade. Mana flares, wrapping around him like blue lightning. Understood, my lady. He appears right in front of Ghislaine in a blink. Slash. A flash of steel. Ghislaine barely dodges, but the blade grazes his cheek. Bernard presses his assault, a storm of strikes that forces Ghislaine on the defensive. Sparks rain with every clash. Amelia's confidence wavers. She hadn't expected her so-called guest to last this long. Yet Ghislaine refuses to fall. He parries another hit, twists his wrist, and locks Bernard's sword in place, his own blade hovering dangerously close to the knight's throat. For a moment, victory looks certain. But Bernard twists his arm, trapping Ghislaine's sword again and countering in one smooth motion. Ghislaine smirks, recognizing the move. That trick again? He tries to disarm him, but this time, Bernard doesn't budge. Mana surges through his body like armor. Your little trick won't work twice, he says coldly, then slams Ghislaine to the ground with brute force. The impact cracks the floor. Bernard lunges forward to finish it. But Ghislaine rolls away, deflecting the strike and leaping back into position. Ghislaine notes the glow around Bernard's arms, mana reinforcement. So that's how he's keeping up. Bernard tilts his head. You're not what the rumors said. Guess you only understand a man's strength once you've crossed blades. Then his expression sharpens. Your style, raw, unrefined. Not noble training. Battlefield experience. Tell me, did you fight barbarians so often you forgot how real knights fight? Bernard throws Ghislaine's sword aside. This ends now. Ghislaine thinks, as expected, this is hard. The narrow, precise thrust attack that constantly targets the head. Bernard's control is perfect. This isn't some random guard, this man's on another level. Then Ghislaine smirks again. You're not the only one with tricks. He raises his hand, revealing a glowing thread of mana trailing from his wrist, then pulls. Bernard freezes for a split second, thrown off by the sudden motion. And Ghislaine strikes like lightning. The hilt of his sword slams into Bernard's skull, and then, bam! A knee drives into his face, sending the knight staggering, blood spraying from his nose. Bernard's eyes go wide. He doesn't even understand what just happened. But Ghislaine's already moving, blade raised, ready to end it. Bernard catches the strike just in time, their swords locked in a deadly cross. The shockwave rattles the entire room. Finally, Bernard glances back. My lady, he says calmly. Leave. I can't guarantee your safety anymore. Then he turns back to Ghislaine, eyes blazing. From here on, I'll fight seriously. Amelia's running, dress flowing, cat in hand, fury burning behind her eyes. She's seething, every step fueled by the humiliation Ghislaine just dumped on her. How the hell did he even know about the Merchant Guild? Someone must have leaked it. There's no way that bastard figured it out alone. Still, as much as she hates it, a thought creeps in, maybe the rumors were true. Maybe he really did slay orcs. Maybe he did save his sister from assassins. But no, luck, exaggeration, all of it. That's what she tells herself. Then she turns a corner, and stops dead. Her guards are sprawled across the floor, unconscious. And standing among them, a hooded woman, calm as a shadow. The woman looks up and smiles. It's been a while, hasn't it, Lady Amelia? Before she can even blink, Belinda moves, a blur of motion. A blade kisses Amelia's throat. Quiet, the maid whispers, her tone like silk and steel. Amelia freezes, the shock mixing with rage and confusion. Belinda's eyes drift to the little spider crawling near Amelia's lip. With delicate precision, she plucks it free. Belinda tosses the spider to the floor. Crunch. It doesn't suit you. Now, be a good lady and cooperate, and we cut back to the fight. Mana floods the room as Bernard glares. So this is your idea of entertainment? He sneers. Spoken like a mercenary, not a noble. Ghislaine's eyes harden. Careful, knight. You're just an escort, don't lecture me on nobility. Bernard doesn't answer, he moves. A flurry of strikes rain down, so fast they blur. Ghislaine blocks, but every impact rattles his bones. Hold the dignity of your name! Bernard snaps, attacks intensifying, forcing Ghislaine to retreat step by step. Ghislaine snarls. Enough! He swings upward, sparks explode, but Bernard deflects and counterstrikes, slicing into Ghislaine's shoulder, until Ghislaine grins back. Using the momentum, Ghislaine twists, pushing the blade aside, planning a brutal counter, but Bernard counters back with a kick. This is the difference between a real warrior and a fool with a sword. Ghislaine, bleeding but smiling, mutters. Then let's see who's still standing. Bernard pushes harder, but Ghislaine's eyes flash. In that instant, he draws on something deeper, a third mana core. Power erupts from him like a thunderclap. Bernard's blade trembles, forced down. Clang! The knight's weapon flies from his hand. He freezes, disbelief in his eyes. Impossible! Ghislaine raises his sword, ready to finish it. But a furious voice stops him cold. Enough! Amelia, with her eyes teary, shouting. Take the gold, and leave. Ghislaine lowers his sword, exhaling. Would have been easier if you'd said that earlier. He steps forward, resting his sword on his shoulder. Oh, and one more thing, he adds calmly. The fee just doubled. Amelia's chamber trembled with the sound of shattering porcelain. Her vase met its tragic end against the floor. Standing beside her, Bernard bowed low, face tight with shame. Forgive me, milady, he muttered. I underestimated him. Ghislaine's mana, it wasn't just strong, it was beyond advanced knight level. Amelia's eyes darkened. So, the rumors were true. He's changed. Bernard hesitated, voice cautious. Should we inform the Duke of Delphine Duchy? That was the wrong move. Smack. Amelia's hand met his cheek, sharp enough to echo. She grabbed him by the collar, her fury scorching. Do you have a death wish, Bernard? If Duke Delphine learns about this, we are finished. Her voice trembled with anger and fear. She explained, their secret alliance with the Duke wasn't exactly sanctioned by her father. The Duke had promised to support her rebellion, but in exchange, she'd help bring down Count Perdium. If word got out, her own family would skin her alive. Ghislaine can't be allowed to live. Not after this. Bernard bowed again, eyes cold. As you command? Amelia asked about Ghislaine's condition. Bernard reported. Minor cuts across his body. A heavier one on his shoulder. But the recoil from that mana surge will cripple him for days. Good, Amelia hissed. Then we strike now. Bernard frowned. We can't send knights, it'll trace back to us. A cruel smile tugged at Amelia's lips. That's why I trained them. Bernard froze. You mean using the wildcats? Amelia agrees and replies, that's right, they are a group that consists of war orphans and those without any kin or status. Only the most talented natural-born specialists are among them. They are perfect for this mission. She planted a flag on the map, a narrow ravine between Rayfold and Perdium. Send a dozen. Only the best. Amelia with a voice low and venomous. You'll regret humiliating me, Ghislaine Perdium, I swear it. Meanwhile, somewhere along a rough mountain road, a carriage rolled through the mist. Inside sat Ghislaine, calmly wrapping his wounded arm in cloth. The air around him was heavy, not with pain, but thought. He could feel it. Amelia wouldn't take this loss quietly. Fergus, ever the worrier, glanced over. "My lord, are you sure you're all right?" Ghislaine smirked. "I've had worse. A few cuts are nothing." He leaned back, reflecting. The fight had nearly drained him, but it was worth it. The gold he'd taken, enough to rebuild Perdium from the ground up. Years of savings in one night's work. He'd considered killing Amelia, sure, but her death would have started a war he couldn't afford. And right now, he needed stability, not chaos. Across from him, Belinda sat in silence, eyes sharp as ever. She broke it first. "Everything went according to plan?" she asked. Ghislaine replied. "More or less. Fergus was supposed to handle the guards and the hostage part. I just improvised." Then, he coughed. Belinda and Fergus immediately tensed. With bloods on his hand, Ghislaine waved them off, grimacing. "It's just the recoil from opening my third mana core. The pain's lighter this time, but still a damn nuisance." Belinda pulls his hand, pulling out a long silver needle pulsing faintly with mana. "Your mana flow's unstable. Hold still." Before Ghislaine could protest, she stabs. The needle pierced his hand, mana flaring. He gasped, not in pain, but surprise. He felt the chaotic flow inside him begin to ease. His pathways, opening. "That worked," he muttered, impressed. Ghislaine eyed her curiously. She wasn't just some maid, she had training. A mysterious one, brought into the family by his late mother. Who exactly was she? But he didn't pry. "Why take so much money from Lady Amelia?" Belinda asks. Ghislaine shrugged, completely deadpan. "I needed funds." "She had money." Belinda blinked. Fergus just stared. "You ended an engagement for pocket change?" Belinda snapped. "Count Rayfold will kill you if he finds out." Ghislaine smirked. "He won't. Amelia won't report it. Too humiliating." Belinda annoyed and asked. "Then at least tell me, what's the money for?" Ghislaine's answer was calm and insane. "I'm going to conquer the forest of beasts." Fergus nearly dropped his sword. "That forest hasn't been conquered since your great-grandfather's time." Ghislaine just smiled. "Then it's about time someone tried again." He turned to Fergus. "Did you find him?" Fergus nodded nervously. "Yes, but he's not stable. Barely sane." "Doesn't matter," Ghislaine replied. "As long as he's alive, he's useful. Let's move." Belinda protested. "You can't travel like this. You're bleeding." Ghislaine countered with a grin. "You think Amelia will just let us leave?" Belinda flexed her arm confidently. "Then let her come. I'm not some weak maid." Ghislaine nodded. "I know. But this next job isn't for you." As the carriage rolled deeper into the forest, shortly, they arrived before an old, decaying wooden cabin. Belinda frowned. "This is the place? It looks abandoned." Fergus nodded. "Positive, my lord." He knocked, and the door creaked open. A massive, disheveled man stood there, hair long and wild, eyes sunken. He stared. "Who the hell are you?" Belinda whispered. "My lord, he looks half dead." Ghislaine didn't flinch. "We're in the right place." The man grunted. "Another bored noble comes slumming around? Leave." He turned to shut the door, but Ghislaine's voice cut through the air. "Ex-captain of the Ratatosk mercenaries. Jillian." The man froze mid-step. Ghislaine smirked. "I've been looking forward to meeting you." The group stood frozen, eyes wide, jaws slack. The man before them, the ragged, quiet one, wasn't just some hermit in rags. Nah. He was the former leader of the legendary Ratatosk mercenaries. A name so feared and respected that even knights in foreign lands still whispered it with awe. Those mercs weren't ordinary. Every single one of them had to master nearly every weapon known to man. And this guy? He led them. Before anyone could even process that revelation, Jillian suddenly hurled an axe straight at Ghislaine. The blade whistled through the air, barely missing Ghislaine's shoulder and tearing right through his jacket. Belinda gasped, and the group instantly drew their weapons, stepping in front of their master. "Jillian," with a low growl, he demanded. "State your business, stranger." Belinda warned her master to step back. "He's unstable," she hissed. But Ghislaine didn't flinch. Instead, his tone dropped cold and deliberate. "Eternal punishment." That one phrase stopped Jillian dead in his tracks. His eyes widened, shock, disbelief. Ghislaine pressed on. "He said he knew the cure for the incurable disease tormenting Jillian's daughter." He listed the symptoms: high fever, bloody coughs, and red flower-like marks spreading across the skin. "That's why they call it eternal punishment." The scene shifts. Jillian stepped aside and allowed Ghislaine and his group into his home. Inside came the sound of a girl's screams. The kind that freeze your blood. Jillian rushed to his daughter, Rachel, writhing in pain on the bed, her skin pale, her breath weak. Ghislain observed her quietly, eyes sharp. Not too late, he thought. He could still save her. In his past life, Ghislain had searched for this man, to recruit him. But by the time he found him, Gillian had lost everything, his daughter, his wealth, and his will to live. The man had taken his own life. Now, seeing the bare house, empty except for weapons, Ghislain knew he was looking at a man who'd already sold his soul to save his child. Rachel, trembling, pleaded weakly through her sobs. "Father, make it stop, please." Ghislain didn't hesitate. He tossed off his jacket. "I'll start treatment now." Belinda grabbed his shoulder. "Wait. You can't." Ghislain brushed her hand off calmly. "I can save her," he said. But Ghislain turned. He handed her a list. "Buy these herbs. All of them. Now." For mercenaries like Ghislain, knowledge was survival. And though this disease was incurable, now, he remembered a time, a future, when a cure was discovered. He was going to use that knowledge here. He began preparing the medicine, a mix of herbs, distilled alcohol, and the most expensive ingredient of all, the fairy's blessing. Just one vial of that stuff could bankrupt a noble. He chopped, packed, poured, and shook the mixture until the liquid shimmered in a glowing purple hue. Then he handed the bottle to Gillian. "Make her drink it." Gillian hesitated, but desperation crushed all doubt. He held his daughter's trembling head and poured the liquid down her throat. Seconds later, the red spots on her skin began to fade. Everyone froze. The coughing stopped. The color returned to her face. The group just stared, too stunned to even breathe. Even Gillian, the man who'd seen more death than most soldiers, was trembling. Ghislain, calm as ever, said, "As expected." Gillian turned to him, his voice shaking. "How? Even holy power couldn't." Ghislain cut him off. "Divine power isn't omnipotent. It can strengthen the body, sure, but it's not a cure. This is science." Gillian's hands trembled as he grabbed Ghislain's sleeve. "Then, she'll live? My Rachel, she'll live?" Ghislain nodded. "She'll make a full recovery within a few months." That was all it took. Gillian dropped to his knees, head bowed. "I owe you everything. I have nothing left but my body. I'll serve you, as your dog, your slave, whatever you want." Ghislain shook his head. "I don't need a dog. I need the captain of the Rat-Atta's mercenaries." Gillian froze. Slowly, he raised his head, and saw it. That look in Ghislain's eyes. Ambition. Fire. Purpose. It was the same light that had once led armies and inspired legends. Gillian stood, silent for a moment. He raised his axe and cut off his long ponytail. The strand fell to the ground, and the man standing there was no longer the broken mercenary. He was a warrior reborn. He asked Ghislain, "Anyone else with you?" "Just my group," Ghislain replied. "Any enemies?" "Plenty." Ghislain smirked. "And I'll probably make more." Gillian chuckled. Then, without warning, he picked up a spear and tied a rope to it. He hurled it. Boom! Through the wooden wall, the force so strong it splintered the planks and disappeared into the forest beyond. A moment later, the rope went taut. Gillian pulled it back, and what came through wasn't just a spear. Impaled on it was a man. A would-be assassin, still gasping, blood staining his chest. Gillian grabbed him by the throat, eyes cold. "Who sent you?" Gillian looked to Ghislain. "What should we do with him?" Ghislain, already guessing the answer, placed a hand on his sword. But Gillian requested to leave this matters to him. Before anyone could react, Gillian twisted his wrist. Crack. The assassin's neck snapped clean. The room fell dead silent. Belinda stared, horrified yet mesmerized by Gillian's raw ruthlessness. She couldn't understand why her master wanted a man like this at his side. Gillian kneels before Ghislain. "From this day on," he said, voice steady, "my life is yours to command." Ghislain, recognizing the value of having such a powerful ally for his reconstruction plans, accepted the pledge with a smile, expressing his eagerness to work with Gillian. The story shifts deep into the woods, far from nobles, knights, and all that fancy nonsense, where a hidden cabin houses the Wildcats, a ruthless trafficking guild. Inside, tension fills the air. One of the traffickers bursts in, panicking. "One of our own, he's dead!" The room goes silent. Eyes dart, chairs scrape, panic spreads like wildfire. But their leader, Virgo, slams the table. "Enough noise." The man apologizes, trembling. "We were told Ghislain would never find our recon team. Bernard swore it." Virgo narrows his eyes. "Then someone either screwed up, or got fed the wrong intel." The silence thickens until one of his men stammers. "It's because of Gillian. He's joined Ghislain's group." That gets Virgo's attention fast. He grabs the man by the throat, voice low, dangerous. Repeat that. The poor guy chokes out. I saw it myself. Jillian's with him. Virgo's anger melts into something else, a crooked smile. So, my old captain finally decides to make a move, heh. This'll be fun. The scene jumps, back to Ghislain and his group, traveling through the woods in a carriage. Inside, Belinda is losing her mind. Seriously, do we need this many weapons? She complains, squished between crates of steel. Who even brings 2 full carriages of swords? This isn't a war, it's a moving armory. Ghislain doesn't even flinch. We already needed an extra carriage for Rachel's comfort, he says calmly. Just bear with it. Escaping the ravine takes priority. Belinda groans. Fine. But next time we're bringing luggage, not an arsenal. Then her tone sharpens. That assassin we captured, it was Amelia's doing, wasn't it? Belinda explains. They handle everything illegal you can think of, smuggling, assassinations, drugs, human trafficking. They're ex-mercenaries, skilled and brutal. The kind of people who don't stay dead easily. Ghislain looks surprised. And you know this how? You've spent most of your life polishing silverware in castles. The ground behind the carriage starts to tremble. Out of nowhere, figures burst up from underground, masked and snarling, wildcats. An ambush! Jillian reacts instantly. He grabs both an axe and a sword, because of course he does, and meets them head-on. A wildcat lunges. Jillian swings his axe, slicing clean through the man's arm. Another attacker rushes in, and Jillian buries his sword straight through his chest. The rest of the wildcats pull a quick trick, yanking ropes that send massive trees crashing toward the carriage. Ghislain yanks the reins, grabs the ropes, and slows the horses just in time, narrowly avoiding a tree-splattered death. From the shadows, more wildcats emerge, and their leader, Virgo, steps forward. Well, if it isn't the former captain of the Ratata's mercenaries. He sneers. You disbanded your whole unit, for your daughter. Left us to rot. Ghislain frowns. You've got the wrong man. That just pisses Virgo off more. So you're pretending, huh? You don't even remember the lives you ruined? Fine. I'll make you remember through pain. He raises his hand. Kill him! Wildcats rush forward, but before Ghislain can even step in, Jillian stands up, cracking his neck. Stay back, he says. This one's mine. The first 4 attackers charge, and Jillian ends them in one swing. A single man-infused strike cleaves through flesh and armor like butter. The rest hesitate for only a second before charging again. Big mistake. Jillian dual-wields like a demon. One swing of the axe sends a man flying, the sword pierces another's throat, and the third gets split in half. Even Virgo has to pause. His grin fades. So your strength hasn't rusted. He barks an order. Split up! Surround him! But Jillian doesn't wait. He grabs a horse, mounts up, and spins his larger axe, the rope attached to it swirling like a storm. He charges straight through them, one swing, and several wildcats are torn apart. With his men falling one after another, Virgo decides to step in himself. He rushes forward, striking fast. Ghislain blocks with a shield, absorbing the blow. Virgo snarls. You ruined my life! You think you can just walk away? He whips out 3 blades and throws them, hitting Jillian's horse and bringing it down hard. Jillian rolls off mid-fall, barely landing on his feet, only to meet Virgo's next attack head-on. Their weapons clash, sparks fly, and Jillian growls. I'm not your captain. He slams his shield into Virgo's ribs, sending him stumbling back. Virgo spits blood, eyes wild. Then who the hell are you? Jillian straightens, eyes cold. Just a man who threw away his past, and serves under Ghislain now. Virgo's face twists with fury. Then you'll die as his dog. He roars and charges again, blades flashing. Jillian parried another furious strike as Virgo's sword slammed into his shield, the impact ringing through the air. Virgo's voice carried frustration and sorrow. He revealed that after Jillian's departure, the Ratatosk mercenary company had fallen apart. The brotherhood they built, gone. He lamented that he'd lost his purpose, forced into a disgraceful life just to survive. Jillian deflected the next strike and swung his axe in retaliation. Virgo dropped low, narrowly dodging, and snapped a kick that shattered Jillian's wooden shield. Breathing hard, Virgo barked. I gave my whole life to make Ratatosk the best in history, and you just threw it all away. To become a pawn for some spoiled noble? Snarling, Virgo drew several short blades, flooding them with mana before launching them at lightning speed. Jillian spun his axe, deflecting the barrage, but Virgo was already closing the distance. A stab barely dodged. Jillian countered with a heavy overhead swing, but Virgo blocked midair, landing gracefully with a grin. The clash intensified, steel against steel, echoing through the forest. Virgo sneered, claiming that Jillian was no longer the man he once admired, that years wasted searching for a cure for his daughter had weakened him. While you were lost in the past, Virgo said coldly, I became stronger. Jillian's next swing carved through the air like thunder. Virgo leapt over him, flipped midair using his sword as leverage, and landed behind him. But Virgo was relentless, charging again, blade flashing. But Jillian didn't move to retreat. Instead, he caught Virgo's sword, with his bare, man-infused hand. Virgo froze. His eyes widened. Jillian slammed the head of his axe into Virgo's face, sending him crashing into a tree. The sound echoed, followed by silence. Standing over him, Jillian spoke lowly. I don't understand you, Virgo. If revenge was all you wanted, you had plenty of chances. Why wait until now? Virgo let out a bitter laugh. He confessed that he had gone to find Jillian once, only to discover an old, broken man who wasn't even worth killing. Anger filled his eyes as he growled. What happened to the captain I once followed? Jillian tossed Virgo's dagger onto the ground. Pick it up. He unsheathed his sword and declared coldly. I am no longer your captain. I'm a body bound by another's will. But if it's a fight you want, he raised his blade, then I'll honor you as the captain of Ratatosk. He picked up his dagger and charged. Their blades met again, furious, fast, and final. Virgo's attacks grew wild, desperate. Jillian blocked each one, his footing steady, his aura flaring. With a sharp pivot, Jillian swung with everything he had. Virgo dropped low, countering in a blur. But Jillian caught his strike, twisted his axe downward, and drove his sword into Virgo's ribs. Jillian stepped aside, raised his axe, and paused for a heartbeat. In a low voice, he called Virgo by his full name. Virgo, 5th Unit Commander of the Ratatosk Mercenaries. Virgo smiled faintly, and that was the last expression he ever wore. Jillian plunged his blade deep, ending it. As Virgo's body fell limp, Jillian knelt beside him, silently picking up his dagger. Moments later, Ghislain and Belinda approached. Jillian apologized for the delay, but Ghislain waved it off, saying he was impressed by his skill. Ghislain admitted that when he was younger, stories about Jillian had inspired him, tales passed down by senior mercenaries that shaped the legend of the Mercenary King. This encounter only proved one thing: recruiting Jillian had been the right call. Days later, the group reached Perdium territory. Belinda sighed in relief at the sight. Jillian looked toward the city and asked if it was Perdium. Ghislain nodded. The sight brought a strange sense of peace, though when he'd run away years ago, he thought he could always come back. When Ghislain asked for his opinion, Jillian stammered that it looked nice. But Ghislain shook his head. He pointed out the crumbling homes, the barren fields, the land abandoned because farmers had been forced into war. The county's struggle against northern barbarians had drained it dry. Still, Ghislain's gaze hardened. I'll fix this. But Ghislain knew what lay ahead. A long, brutal fight against Duke Delphine's power, and a chance to reclaim everything Perdium had lost. As they entered the city, Belinda suddenly stopped, eyes widening. Master, look ahead. Ghislain followed her gaze, and froze. There, standing in the road, armor gleaming, coat draped across his shoulders, was a man he never expected to see again. His father. At Perdium Castle, several men were gathered, engaged in a serious discussion with Count Walter Perdium himself. The Count, calm yet weary, proposed something that immediately shocked the room, reducing their forces. The knights exchanged uneasy glances. One man stood abruptly, his voice filled with alarm. Count! If we reduce our troops now, maintaining the front lines will be impossible. Another tried to offer a solution. Then perhaps we could request additional support from the Rayfold family? But before hope could settle in, the general administrator, Homer, interjected grimly. That won't work. The Rayfolds have already cut their support funds. They're amassing soldiers and stockpiling food instead. The room fell into uneasy silence. Even the most stoic knight looked shaken. Someone broke the silence, reminding the council of another looming issue. We still need funds to rebuild the Forest of Beasts garrison. It was half destroyed during the last orc battle. Cutting the Knight Order won't help. The relief will be minimal and the risk immense. The debate grew heated. Voices clashed. Arguments flared. But among them, Ghislain Perdium sat quietly, watching the chaos unfold. None of it surprised him. Around him stood familiar figures: Randolph, the knight captain whose booming presence commanded any room; Albert, the gruff, bearded treasurer whose frown seemed permanently carved onto his face; and the composed Homer, always calm no matter how dire the topic. As the noise continued, Ghislain's thoughts drifted, not to the argument, but to his father. Though only a few months had passed since they'd last met, for Ghislain, who had lived decades as the mercenary king, that time felt like years. Finally, he spoke. Welcome home, father. Count Walter's eyes flicked toward his son, surprised by the warm tone. Their relationship had always been distant, formal at best. But as Ghislain looked at him now, he no longer saw a stern ruler, he saw an exhausted man, burdened by the weight of a crumbling domain. Walter took a sip of his tea before speaking. I heard you've been gone for a week. Ghislain nodded casually. I visited the Rayfolds. Albert, ever the skeptic, spoke up. I heard rumors that you dueled Cain Rayfold, won, and walked away with quite a fortune. Tell me, young lord, did you go there to gamble again? Ghislain's eyebrow twitched. It wasn't gambling, he replied sharply. It was business. I conducted a deal with Amelia. Homer, maintaining his formal tone, interjected. My lord, you should still be mindful of your actions. You are, after all, the future ruler of Perdium. Ghislain's response came smooth and calm. I appreciate the reminder, Homer. But there's no need for concern. The administrator frowned. It was clear Ghislain wasn't taking him seriously. Sensing the rising tension, Count Walter set down his teacup with a quiet clink. That's enough. Let it go. He turned to his son, his gaze firm but not unkind. I heard you caused some good trouble while I was away. Ghislain tilted his head. Good trouble? The Count's eyes narrowed. You executed Jamal and Philip, didn't you? The ones who tried to sell Elena? Ghislain's eyes widened briefly. He hadn't expected his father to bring that up. Before he could answer, Randolph scoffed. Impossible. There's no way he defeated both knights alone. They probably turned on each other, and he just finished the job. Ghislain understood the man's doubt. Despite their betrayal, Randolph still saw those knights as comrades, and couldn't accept that the Count's useless son had bested them. So, Ghislain simply nodded. You're right, Captain. Something like that. Randolph smirked triumphantly, convinced of his theory. But to everyone's surprise, Walter chuckled. Regardless of how it happened, you did well. What matters is that Elena is safe. For the first time in his life, Ghislain felt something unfamiliar, his father's genuine praise. Encouraged, he straightened. Father, I have a request. Walter raised an eyebrow. A request? Before Ghislain could continue, Homer interrupted sharply. If this is about money, don't bother asking. Randolph joined in with a scoff. Yes, after all your past stunts? Selling military provisions for gambling money, setting the front gate on fire just to roast a horse, melting armor to forge some useless sword. Ghislain sighed. All right, I get it. He couldn't even deny it. Even if he didn't remember those exact events, they sounded like something he'd do. This time, he said evenly, I'm not asking for money. I just need permission. The Count leaned forward. For what? I want to pioneer the forest of beasts. The room went dead silent. Homer froze mid-breath. Albert nearly dropped his pen. Randolph gawked at him. Ghislain simply smiled, unfazed by their reactions. Later that night in Ghislain's chamber, Ghislain leaned back in his chair, retelling the scene to Belinda with an amused grin. So, yeah? He yelled at me and said absolutely not. Belinda sighed. Predictable. That forest is filled with monsters. There's nothing there worth dying for. Ghislain turned to Gillian, his loyal guard. You heard the plan, right? Gillian nodded. Yes. You plan to fund this with the money you received from Lady Amelia. But the Forest of Beasts is infamous, a place no one's ever returned from alive. Even people from other regions call it the Forest of Death. Ghislain's expression didn't change. I know. He rose from his seat, determination hardening his gaze. There's nothing to gain by waiting. We leave soon. Belinda frowned. But you haven't gotten permission. Are you still going to proceed? I asked out of courtesy. Ghislain replied calmly. This isn't about permission. It's something I must do. Belinda's voice softened. What could possibly be in that forest that makes you so determined? Ghislain smiled faintly. I'll tell you later. Because deep within that cursed forest lay something far more valuable than anyone realized. A runestone vein buried near its entrance. Runestones, minerals infused with mana, the very lifeblood of magical tools, barriers, scrolls, alchemy devices, and arcane research. Their worth was immeasurable. In his previous life, Duke Delphine had discovered it. But now, only Ghislain knew. Belinda studied him quietly, then sighed. You must have a plan. I do, Ghislain replied. And for that I need mercenaries. Belinda blinked. Mercenaries? After all that trouble earning the money? Gillian frowned. Mercenaries are unruly, my lord. Some would betray their employers for the right price. Ghislain nodded. That's why we'll choose them ourselves, the most skilled and loyal we can find. Gillian's eyes narrowed. Don't tell me you mean them. Ghislain's lips curved into a grin. The mad dogs. Cerberus mercenaries. Jillian tensed. They're dangerous, famous for turning on their clients. Ghislaine's grin widened. Then we'll just put a leash on the mad dogs. Cut to the outskirts of Zimba territory. Dust swirled as Jillian led his master's horse up a rocky hill toward the mercenary camp. One of the lookouts spotted them and snickered. Visitors incoming. Another leaned over, amused. A noble? Poor bastard doesn't know where he's walking. He peered through his spyglass, eyes lighting up with greed. A noble and an idiot. Perfect target. But before he could laugh again, a massive hand grabbed him by the collar. He barely managed a scream before Jillian hurled him like a sack of rocks, his upper body embedding into the sand. The camp erupted in chaos. One mercenary, swinging a spiked chain, snarled. You think you can throw your noble weight around here? You're not leaving this camp alive! But before the man could take another step, a commanding voice cut through the noise. From atop his horse, Ghislaine looked down coldly and said, Shut up, and bring me your captain. The mercenary spinning his chain in wide, taunting circles. He sneered. A noble brat like you giving orders? Guess it's time someone taught you a little responsibility. With a loud crack, he hurled the spiked chain toward Ghislaine. But before it could reach its target, the attack stopped midair. The metallic sound of tension snapping echoed across the camp. A dagger had pierced through the links, locking the chain in place. Ghislaine smiled faintly at the sight. I suppose words alone won't cut it. He turned to his knight. Jillian, handle this. But make sure, no fatalities. Jillian nodded once, his voice calm. Understood. He gripped the chain and yanked it back with ease. The mercenary was dragged forward helplessly, feet leaving the ground as he flew toward Ghislaine. Only for Jillian to swing the very spiked ball into the man's gut with brutal precision. The sound of impact echoed, followed by the man's pained cry. With a sharp motion, he twisted the dagger further into the chain, then swung the injured mercenary into the oncoming group like a weapon. The bodies collided with a heavy crash, sending dust and curses flying through the air. The rest hesitated. Jillian's piercing gaze swept across them, cold, unyielding. That single look was enough to silence every man in the camp. A new voice cut through the tension. What's going on here? The mercenaries immediately parted, their faces turning serious. From between them walked a tall man with fiery red hair, an imposing figure with eyes like smoldering embers. He looked down at Ghislaine and his knight with mild amusement. So, you're the one stirring up trouble in my camp? Ghislaine met his gaze. You must be Kair, captain of the Cerberus mercenaries. Scene shift, inside Kair's tent. The air inside was thick with smoke and tension. Kair leaned back in his chair, surrounded by several of his men, his fiery gaze never leaving Ghislaine. So, noble, he began. What exactly is it you want from us? Ghislaine answered plainly. I want to hire the Cerberus mercenaries, to pioneer the forest of beasts. For a moment, the tent fell into silence. Then, as if on cue, Kair's men burst into laughter. The forest of beasts? One of them barked. That death trap where no one ever comes back alive. You serious, kid? Another jeered. Ghislaine remained composed. Yes. Dead serious. Kair chuckled darkly, shaking his head. You're out of your mind. That place isn't for rookies or nobles who've never seen real blood. Ghislaine raised an eyebrow. Are you afraid, Captain? Kair's laughter stopped. His smile faded into something sharper. Careful with that tongue, boy. We don't take jobs that offer no reward. Only fools and corpses venture there. Ghislaine's tone didn't waver. Weaklings often use excuses to mask their fear. The insult landed hard. Kair slammed his boot on the table, rattling the mugs and knives. You've got guts, Sprat, but you're testing my patience. He leaned forward, eyes burning. You'll leave here alive, but you'll pay for the mess you caused. Ghislaine's smirk returned. I won't be paying anything. Instead, I'll make a deal. Kair tilted his head, intrigued. Oh? What kind of deal? Ghislaine's voice was steady. Moriana's recognition. The entire tent went silent. Even the fires seemed to flicker still. It's a traditional mercenary duel. 1 dagger each. 1 arm tied together. No mana. No tricks. Step out of the circle, you lose. The loser submits completely to the winner, body and loyalty. A heavy pause. Then Kair's lips twisted into a grin. You really are insane. He turned to his men and raised his voice. You hear that, boys? This young lord wants to play by mercenary rules. The camp exploded with laughter and cheers, echoing across the tents. Kair chuckled, clearly amused. Fine then, noble. Let's see if you can survive your own arrogance. Outside the tent, dusk settling over the camp. A ring was drawn in the dirt. Ghislaine and Kair stood within it, bound at the wrist by thick rope, daggers gleaming in their free hands. The mercenary surrounded them, shouting encouragements and bets, the atmosphere electric with bloodlust. Kair stripped off his jacket, revealing the scars and muscle of a veteran fighter. He smirked, pulling Ghislain closer by their binding. "I've done this kind of duel 5 times before, brat. I hope you can last a minute." Ghislain met his eyes with a cold, unflinching stare. "I've done it, over 100 times." The moment the duel began, both men lunged forward, daggers flashing in the narrow circle. Metal clashed, sparks flew, and the crowd erupted as they narrowly dodged each other's strikes. Ghislain pressed forward, each movement sharp and precise, forcing Kair to block repeatedly. Then Kair grinned, yanking Ghislain toward him and trying to stab him from behind. Ghislain twisted, blocking each attack without even turning to look. The mercenaries howled with excitement, until Kair's blade missed, and Ghislain ducked under, countering in a blur. Kair retaliated instantly, slamming his boot into Ghislain's leg with brutal force. The hit echoed, but Ghislain stood his ground, silent and steady. Kair chuckled. "You're better than I thought, noble brat, but 100 Moriana's recognitions? Don't make me laugh." He charged again, this time relentless. The small circle left Ghislain nowhere to run. One wrong step outside meant defeat. No mana, no tricks. Just raw strength and precision. Kair's advantage was obvious. His massive frame dominated the tight space while Ghislain could barely evade. Each blow came harder than the last. Then Kair pinned Ghislain down, driving his dagger downward. Ghislain barely rolled aside. Kair noticed and sneered. "You look pale already." But Jillian, watching from the sidelines, kept his hand on his axe, ready to step in if needed. Kair swung again, too fast. Ghislain ducked low, and this time, he smiled. With a sudden, fluid motion, he slipped under Kair's guard and slashed near his ribs. Blood spilled. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Kair roared and rushed in, but Ghislain moved like water, low, swift, precise. Another cut across the chest. The same man who was being tossed around minutes ago was now carving through the mercenary captain like a ghost. "Impossible," one of the men muttered. Kair swung wildly at Ghislain's head, but Ghislain ducked again and rammed his shoulder into Kair's face, following up with a flurry of punches, each one landing harder than the last. Then, with a twist of his dagger, Ghislain stabbed through Kair's hand. Kair didn't even scream. Jillian finally understood. Kair's raw power had stiffened his body, while Ghislain, fluid and loose, had turned that same strength against him. Kair staggered, panting. His men jeered, urging him to finish the noble. Ghislain smirked. "You're more disciplined than most. I expected you to cheat with mana by now." Kair grinned back through bloody teeth. "You sound like someone who's actually done this before. But remember, the fight's not just about strength." Then he lunged, grabbing Ghislain's arm and hoisting him into the air, trying to throw him out of the circle. Instant defeat if he succeeded. But Ghislain twisted midair, locking his grip on Kair's arm, bracing his legs against the captain's knees, and reversed the momentum, using Kair's own weight against him. In one flawless motion, Ghislain flipped over, locked his arm around Kair's neck, and slammed his head into the ground, half his body landing outside the circle. The mercenaries froze. Their captain had lost. Ghislain looked down coldly. "Your new master." Pulling Kair to his feet, he added calmly. "And don't relax yet. I haven't stepped out of the circle." Kair's eyes widened. Ghislain's voice hardened. "Now, it's time to discipline my subordinate."